Welcome back,
Woo.
friends. We are once again back with Victor Escalante Live. We have a very interesting show for you today. We're going to do a deep dive into what do Latino voters want in a mayor. We are going to be looking at the data that is compiled by the Hobby Center School of Public Affairs, and I've assembled the panel. Jose Monterrosa, welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Victor. Always amazed with that explosive introduction to the radio show.
Yes, that's what we're about. And we have Michelle Wicmandy, who is a Google expert who's going to look at the online footprint and messaging. And more importantly, we're going to tell you how campaigns are doing well. The top three candidates, Sheila Jackson Lee, John Witmire, and also Gabriel Garcia, to see what they're doing well and where they could improve in their messaging and their campaign and their strategy. So why don't we go ahead and dive in, Jose? Take it away.
Sure, just to clarify a little bit, Michelle will be looking at the statistical techniques to analyze what is the right message for the candidate. So, but let's go ahead and get started. Just like you mentioned, Victor, already, this data that we are going to be reviewing in a very top level, right? By no means this is a classroom lecture or anything like that. Is basically extracted from the data that was presented by Dr. Jim Granato from the Hobby School of Public Affairs of the University of Houston. So let's look at the first slide that we have for our audience today. So these are, according to the data, these are the, in a nutshell, these are the issues that Latinos or Hispanics see in the city right now in terms of, things related to what the mayor is doing in the city. So the first one is over 3/5 of Hispanics in Houston feel like Houston is heading in the wrong direction. Very, very interesting to see that, right? Hispanic Houstonians indicated that violent crime, home and car break-ins, and street conditions were the top 3 issues that had a negative impact on the quality of life in their neighborhoods. And even more, Hispanics said that the top issues in the next Houston mayor should tackle, that they should tackle, are related to crime, flooding, and road and street conditions. There's actually one more that I feel is very important and was not included in this brief report by the Hobby School of Public Affairs. But let's move on to the next slide. So here's the thing as we look at this data. When I saw crime and crime being at the very top, I just thought about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think the two of us can relate to this, right? At some point, we saw this at school at some point. And I want you to think about this as we look at the data, because this hierarchy is divided in 3 different sections. One is the basic needs, the second one is the psychological needs, and the third one being the self-fulfillment needs. Now, at the very basic, just like you see on the slide, we have the physiological needs, so food, water, rest. And then right above that, we have the safety needs, security. Security in terms of crime, security in terms of having a good job and making sure that you're going to be providing to the family, right? So, and the reason why I want to highlight this is, Victor, you know that I follow a lot of politicians in Latin America, and crime throughout the region has become a hot issue to the point that is pretty much allowing others to win elections just focusing on that specific issue that is being experienced in throughout the region. So,
However, let me interject something. However, according to a study that was released today, I've been seeing this on my radar. This was a study that was compiled by Houston Landing, a new nonprofit news organization, in conjunction with Rice University. They are saying that crime is down. So I want to you two to opine. Why is the electorate primarily focusing on those issues of crime. So, what is
Well,
your take?
yeah, my take on that is that one thing is, what is being experienced today, right? And what are the statistics related to crime in the city. Another thing is the perception that people have
Exactly.
to that. So that idea, even if you see a small increase of crime in your neighborhood, that the fact is that you have been living with that issue maybe for a few months, years, it's going to be in your head for quite some time before somehow it's being removed from that top
Michelle,
of
what's
mind
your take?
awareness.
Yeah, yeah. What's your take?
I was going to say, and it also depends on where the study was performed, right? So who took the survey, who are those respondents, and then it goes back to what is their perception of the crime.
Hmm.
So different variables involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Remind me not to ask the question again when it comes to a scientist, to ask a scientist a generalized question. Here's my take, guys.
uh-huh.
With social media, we have become sadly a nation with content that is, psychologists call it race to the bottom, uh, tantalizing news that, let's face it, what is coming from legacy media, whatever bleeds is going to lead. And so we have become so saturated with bad news that bad news sells. And so the more that campaigns repeated of how things are awful, as far as crime is concerned, that's going to be a dominant mindset of the community. Now, that is not to say that we have had lots of crime incidents. I personally know a couple of people that their car was broken into, one was stolen. The other one, they took a laptop, and we see different neighborhoods that you have basically criminals going going around seeing what they can steal. And so,
Yeah.
because of the how news travels so fast, someone that publishes on social media, everybody's going to know that you got broken into or you were held at gunpoint. And so again, the messaging, the constant bombardment of messaging is going to impact that. But let's go on.
Well,
We need to,
yeah, I mean, yeah, and fear and anger are usually the
yes,
strongest emotions, right? And they drive engagement across
yes.
different platforms. So
And that's what gets people to vote. So again, this is a tried, proven page out of the playbook on how to win elections.
yeah. So let's move on to the next slide, which gets more into the specifics, right, of the issues that were mentioned before. So as you can see in the slide, and I'm going to read here from my notes, the issues that Hispanics see right now in the city are not that different from what the general market is seeing. The difference is in the levels that each of those two different groups assign to those specific issues, right? So, for example, crime is very big among Hispanics. It's also big about the rest of the population. But Hispanics in particular are very sensitive to that specific issue. So as you can see in the slide, crime is 88%, flooding is 73%, roads and street conditions is 67%, and the economy and jobs are 68%. Those to me are like the top four issues based on what I'm seeing here, right? And in a way, at least two of them are related to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs that I mentioned right before this slide. Now, uh, on a second tier level, we have affordable housing and trash collection and recycling, as you can probably see in this slide over here. I wish this could be bigger, but that's basically how I bucket those two different groups or cluster of items. So let me go ahead and move to the next slide. Now, this is more specific about the Hispanic population. And these are the issues that impact the quality of life in the neighborhoods where Latinos live. So if you see this slide, the top issues are violent crime, 68%, home and car break-in, 62.5%, streets and in bad condition, 60.7%. Those are the top three. And on a second tier level, you have illegal drug usage, 54.5%, homeless population, 52.7%, and illegal dumping at 44.6%. So again, these are more specific issues related to the quality of life that Hispanics may be experiencing in their neighborhoods.
Let
So
me interject something here. Do you
yes,
guys remember what Mayor Turner, one of his key messages in winning the mayor's race when he first ran? Do you guys remember
I
his talking
I
points?
I
I don't
don't.
recall.
Uh-uh.
Filling potholes. Okay.
Oh
Oh yeah.
yes, you're
I
right.
Filling
was
potholes. Now, he was criticized on the campaign of how he was going to fill potholes overnight. And so again, he came out swinging, and he made the point, which I thought that he did quite well, is we need to have a systemic approach to filling potholes.
Mhm.
And I, for one, can tell you that I've had two tires that have been damaged through potholes, because you run over a pothole and the thread
Yeah,
is going to dislodge from the tire, and you're going to develop a bubble. How many
absolutely.
times are people tired of all the debris on the road conditions, the work conditions of all the construction that's going on? And of course, this makes perfect sense as to why Latinos would be very interested in having better roads.
Yeah, especially if they're mobilizing throughout the city, right?
Yes,
Which happens a lot, especially that those that
yes,
work in professional services. But hey,
correct.
road conditions are the second one of the top four
Yes.
issues. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So, so what we did is we looked at three of the candidates. We just visited their websites and see what type of information they are trying to highlight in their websites, right? And try to get a better understanding of how those issues that they promote in their websites relates to the ones that were pointed out in the study. So what you see in yellow here, in the case of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, we have three that fit the results of this study. The first one being build and rebuild infrastructure, lower crime, and prioritize public safety. And the third one being promote a small business and enhance economic opportunity. The other three, I mean, not necessarily that important. Let's put it that way. So one of the things that I saw when I checked the issues that she focuses on is that she has a lot compared to others. She has six issues that she's highlighting. So I would say that she may need to focus on the top three, or maybe reevaluate her mix of issues as she presents them in her website. And about what is the right mix is the part that Michelle will be talking about at the end of this presentation. So let me go ahead and jump to the second candidate that we are highlighting today, and that is Gilbert Garcia. Out of the top four issues, we saw that Gilbert focuses on only two. So the first one being invest more resources into community policy and public safety, build an economy that has opportunities for everyone in Houston. So two out of the four. Uh, Now, the problem that I see here is, in my knowledge, in my understanding, he is very heavy on words when he is trying to explain the issues. And this may not necessarily be a good thing. That is one thing that pops almost immediately as I was checking his website. The other thing, the issues in his website are not necessarily very visible. I have to do some digging to find them, as opposed to the one from Sheila Jackson Lee and the next candidate that we will be reviewing. So,
well.
my take, yes, go ahead.
We also discussed, we had a difference in terms of what it meant to clean up our streets. So we felt
Right.
that his messaging could be construed different ways to different people. So does
Yeah.
clean up our streets mean that we are going to get rid of debris? Or does clean up our streets mean that we are going to clean up the crime? So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of an issue with semantics.
The clarity in the message, right? I mean,
Right.
because look, the fact is that people will look at this very quickly and they're not going to stop and think what exactly you mean. I mean, you have to be very clear
Your
on what you're
confirmation
meaning.
bias is going to kick in if you live in an area that your streets are relatively safe and clean. That's not going to resonate to you, and
Right.
so potentially you're missing out on that voter of being able to speak to them, to be able to speak to them in such a way that you are conveying to them the issues that are really important to them.
Absolutely. And let me go ahead and jump to the next candidate, Senator John Witmire. Now, here's the difference compared to the other two. Whitmire, again, very easy to find the issues in his website. It's almost, just like Sheila Jackson Lee, very upfront, very focused on keywords here: public safety, strong economy, streets, water, and drainage. He doesn't really elaborate a lot on what that really means, right? So the fact that he is very concise in the way he's sharing and communicating this, to me, is almost like a differentiator uh, when you compare the other two. So I think that, and even if you read the explanation of what is meant by public safety, he uses these bullet points that are, I mean, it's no brainer. It's very easy to understand. I think that people can relate to it very easily.
Well,
Michelle, you wanted to say something? Sorry.
right. I wanted to go back to Maslow's hierarchy,
Uh-huh.
right? Because people understand safety, right? They understand safety and they understand economics. And right there, it's safety needs and it's the ability to be safe and to be able to provide for your family. And then he talks about, I think, air quality, which would then fall under the physiological needs, just having the clean air, which then feeds into your health. So I think his messaging is just very clear, it's concise, and therefore it's going to be memorable.
Absolutely. And now, do we think that this is like the main thing why he is being so successful right now? Maybe not, but it's definitely playing a key role. There may be a different variable. There may be different variables that are being used or managed the right way in this campaign.
We
Right
have a
now, we're
viewer on LinkedIn, guys, that is making the comment.
uh-huh.
Please stop making this about race or culture. It's divisive. Okay, so what do you guys have to say? First of all, thank you, viewer on LinkedIn.
Right. So the focus here is basically about what Hispanics see as issues, right?
That's
How the candidates treat those issues, that's really up to them, I would say. Michelle, you wanted to add? Sorry.
right. Well, the study came from the University of Houston, and it was on the Hispanic population, correct? And how
Correct.
they
Yes.
view specific issues within the city. So that's why the angle is with the Hispanic population.
Absolutely. And just like we saw, I mean, the top four issues, I mean, whether you're Hispanic or not, they are the same with the rest of the population. Again, the difference is in the level that is assigned to each of those top four issues. So I think that Hispanics are a large population of Houston. I think that it is important to keep them engaged in their civic duties, right, like voting. And I think that an analysis like this just adds to the fact that we need to make sure that our Hispanic population are making the right decisions in terms of who the next civic leaders will be for the city. I mean, that's the way that I would put it, if you ask me, Victor.
And the other thing too is when you take a look at what the candidates are pitching, their messaging, it's straight across the board. Like for example, Senator John Witmire, three key points: public safety, strong economy, and then streets, water, and drainage, which would apply to all Houstonians.
Yeah, and the other thing about this, and I forgot to mention, is that he is actually hitting on the top four issues that were identified at the beginning
Yes.
of this presentation. So that to me is important. Let's go ahead and jump in to the next slide. Now the question is, okay, so we just talked about three different candidates, right? And they almost touch on the same issues, almost. Uh, the question becomes, okay, so if you are, for example, the underdog in this race, what are the things that you need to do to have a meaningful message that is going to resonate with voters, and at the same time, it's going to help you differentiate yourself from the others? What is that right mix of issues that need to be incorporated in the message that you're going to be communicating? So for that, we thought, okay, one way of doing this, and Michelle is going to talk a lot about this, is using point joint analysis. So Michelle, I leave it to you at this point.
This is a good part, viewers.
Okay, so
This is where we get to the meaty part of the presentation. This is how you message. This is how you market to Latinos. Go ahead.
okay, thank you so much. So once we need to know what people are thinking and what they're feeling and what they want. So we need to do some research and we need to collect this data. So we use content analysis, which is a form of statistical analysis that we use. And essentially what happens is our population, our community members, what they'll do is they will vote or they will rank the importance of these various issues, which they've done right here on this survey. So as we mentioned earlier, what is important is, of course, crime, the environment, water, housing, economy. And so we use that information then to start telling our stories.
Let me move to the next slide because I'm the one that has control over that. Okay, go ahead.
Here we go. Okay, so conjoint analysis, it's a form of market research. It's a technique that identifies the combination of attributes where we can then go and craft the right message or attempt to craft that message. So
may I add something here? That the beauty of conjoint analysis is that you can actually test the trade-off that people make between messages, right? I mean, the main message may be crime, and the way that I see it, crime is obviously extremely important because it ranks so high compared to the others. But when you compare it to maybe flooding, or maybe the economy and jobs, or road and street conditions, thus crime becomes the main issue here that you need to focus on. What other things need to be incorporated in that message? Sorry, Michelle.
The other thing, so going back to what Victor had mentioned earlier about social media, it is that message that continuously gets sent repeatedly within the community. And of course, people gravitate more to negative news as opposed to the positive. But crime is a consistent. Flooding, we have flooding maybe once a year, maybe it's every other year, or maybe it's even 5 years. But I believe the reason crime is going to stay more towards the top is it is a consistent activity that we see more often as opposed to, say, flooding, which is due to climate environment.
Okay. You want me to move on to the next slide? Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
So we take the information and we review what is important to our population or our community members, And then from there, we start to craft our messages, our set of messages, say, because we don't know exactly what is going to work until we actually test the messages and see which one resonates the most with our population.
And one thing that I want to point out about the messages that you want to test is that, it's better for them to be significantly different, right? So you
Right.
can start narrowing down which one is it. Was it either one, two, or three? Which one is the one that is resonating the most? You don't want those messages to be too close to each other. So very important when you're trying to
As a
test.
content creator, in my mind, as I'm reading this, you call it conjoint analysis.
Uh-huh.
It, linguistically, it's a complex equivalence. This equals this. If you vote for me, you get this. So that would be excellent copy for a video of a candidate actually walking the streets and talking about a personal experience to be able to humanize it and make it relatable, and then close with that call to action, or
And
that appeal, or that benefit that voters are going to get if they were to elect that candidate.
right. And Victor, just to maybe put it in the context of maybe a physical product.
Yeah,
If you were doing conjoint analysis, you probably have like three different sizes of that
right.
bottle for that orange juice, right? And you have like there three different labels stick to the front of that bottle, and maybe the bottles have different colors as well. So you can start testing which one has the right mix, right? Almost something very similar may happen here but in this case, it's messages, the ones that
Right.
we are testing.
And what came to mind playing off of that is, as you were saying earlier, Jose, about making sure that the messages are distinct enough.
Hmm.
So if we were thinking of a product, say like a television, we would want to say, is it a 60-inch screen, a 70-inch screen, or a 50-inch screen? Something that is different, has enough difference to where we can actually identify the differences. They're very distinct sizes. And so when we think about what we are going to ask our survey respondents about what they like um, in terms of crafting the messages, we need to make sure that they are distinct enough to where when we um, do the analysis, that we're able to identify which message is better than the other.
Right. And maybe one thing that I need to add as well is, do we focus on attributes, right? Or do we focus on the issues
Exactly.
or
I
the,
was thinking about that, Jose. You got
yeah,
two candidates that are current office holders. Talk about their voting history and how they have supported initiatives and laws related to these topics that
hmm,
Latino voters want to hear.
which
Right.
takes me to maybe the benefits that may be
Yeah,
associated with those issues that they may have approached already, right?
exactly.
And or even more, what values are associated with those benefits and those attributes. So,
Yes.
different ways that you can tackle this.
So going back to creating our hypothetical messages, so we have identified what the key issues are. So then from there, we would craft, say, 3 different messages to test. So for example, the first message could be about safety and then improving our roads. The second one would be, again, protecting, so making the community safer, protecting your family from flooding and boosting the economy. And then the last one, investing in better roads for a prosperous future. So they hit on different points, or they hit on the same points, but they are just crafted in a different way that then allows us to collect our data, to create a survey, collect the data, and then analyze the data to understand which message is going to resonate more with the community.
Right. And once we have those research results, that's when the creative part comes into play. because we have the need to create that message, right? And that is one of the last bullet points: message development. That's when, yeah, that's when we take that information and start building it in such a creative way that it can resonate with the population even more.
Right. So it's the entire message. So it's not just the text, it's not just the copy, but it's also the images, including colors, text, font base, and so on. But the point is to make sure that we're constantly testing, we're refining, and then when we find that best message, then to repeat the process to constantly improve our messaging.
And testing after developing that message can even be doing a second round of research, such as doing focus groups, right? If we have the creative already developed, based on the results that we found through the survey and conjoint analysis, then maybe the next step is to actually take that back through focus group sessions, and then test it even more, refine it, and just like Michelle said, repeat it.
Right.
That is the way we see it, Victor. I think that we have highlighted, what the issues are, thanks to the data that was provided by Dr. Granato, and then also try to bring some understanding of how the candidates are focusing on those issues that are revealed on that study, and then from that point on, try to explain a process, a methodology that can allow those candidates to refine their message, build something that is meaningful, and also build something that is going to help them differentiate from the other candidates.
Thank you, Jose and Michelle. I know that you guys spent hours in preparing this presentation, so I hope that candidates are paying attention and really getting the point of how to market and how to message to Hispanics. And of course, they can always call you, Jose,
Sure.
if they want
We're here.
further insight into what this is all about and what this all means in the execution phase. So
Perfect.
that is going to wrap it up for today, friends. Thank you for tuning in. And until next week, we're going to have another very interesting show for you where we talk about business and everything that relates to the Houston market. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.